Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dig into fascinating sources and pull out the key nuggets of knowledge for you. And today, we're embarking on a really profound journey, I think, into one of the Holy Quran's most unique chapters, Surah Al-Hajj. This is the 22nd chapter, and it holds a truly special place. So it was revealed partly in Makkah, partly in Medina. So it kind of bridges those early challenges for the Muslim community with, setting up their core practices. It's called the pilgrimage, Hajj. But as you'll find out, the verses go way beyond just the Hajj rituals. They cover core beliefs, moral conduct, community stuff. Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to unpack all that. Its multifaceted scope will guide you through the emphasis on Taqwa. That's God consciousness, the reality of resurrection, the difference between like real faith and conditional faith, the sanctity of sacred places, divine justice, even the first permission for defensive fighting.
And what's really fascinating structurally is how it starts and ends with Taqwa. It just underscores how foundational that concept is. You'll see it weaves together these profound spiritual ideas with very practical guidance. It's really a comprehensive guide for life in a way.
So what's the takeaway for us today? Whatever your background, get ready for some surprising facts, I think, and insights. A shortcut to getting informed on this incredible text. Okay, let's dive in. So the surah kicks off with this really solemn, urgent warning to everyone about the day of judgment. It says, "O mankind, have taqwa of your Lord. Verily, the earthquake of the hour is a terrible thing."
Wow.
The description it gives of that day, it's pretty shocking. "Every nursing mother will forget her nursling, and every pregnant one will drop her load. And you shall see mankind is in a drunken state, yet they will not be drunk, but Allah's torment is severe." Just wow.
Yeah, that initial earthquake, it's presented as a prelude to the resurrection itself. It's designed to cause immense terror, really, and to hammer home that all our worldly attachments, they just become insignificant. The goal is to instill firm belief, prompt that deep introspection, make us think about what actually matters.
And then there's this detail, this narration that really puts the scale of it into perspective. An authentic hadith is saying of the Prophet Muhammad, it says that out of every 1,000 people, 999 would be destined for the fire. That's staggering.
It is a stark number. And understandably, it caused a lot of distress among the early Muslims when they first heard it. But it's crucial that the Prophet, peace be upon him, immediately followed that severe warning with reassurance. He explained that the proportion from the Muslim Ummah community would actually be small compared to other nations, including groups like Gog and Magog, these vast populations mentioned elsewhere. So this approach, it's pedagogical, right? It prevents that paralyzing fear, but still fosters accountability. It balances that reverent fear with deep hope in Allah's immense mercy.
Right, that balance is key. You need the warning, but also the hope. So, okay, for people who might doubt the whole idea of resurrection itself, how does the surah provide proof? It seems like it uses arguments from creation.
It does, yeah. It immediately pivots to address that skepticism head on. It presents these irrefutable signs, things we can all observe. It details the miraculous process of human creation, from lifeless clay, then a sperm drop, a clot, a lump of flesh, developing all the way to full strength and eventually old age. This whole intricate journey from, well, seemingly nothing. It demonstrates Allah's power to create life from inert matter. It makes the idea of recreation seem logical, doesn't it?
And it parallels that with the natural world, right?
Yeah.
The dead earth analogy.
Exactly. The revival of dry, barren land by rain. You see it stir, swell up, and bring forth all this lush vegetation. That's another powerful, observable sign of Allah's power to bring life from death. And, famous scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, they emphasize this point. Belief in resurrection aligns with both faith and reason. Logically, the one who created the first time can certainly recreate. This cycle of life and death we see everywhere in nature. It's like continuous proof. It fosters certainty. So what this means for you, the listener, is that faith here isn't presented as just blind acceptance. It's accessible through observation, encouraging contemplation of these divine signs, reinforcing belief in Allah as the truth.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, the surah then talks about people who argue about Allah without knowledge or guidance. What's their deal? What characterizes them?
Well, the main characteristic highlighted is arrogance, intellectual arrogance, really. It mentions them bending his neck in pride and leading others to astray. They're puffed up, dismissive, and their fate, disgrace in this life and severe torment later, it really underscores the danger of that kind of pride, putting your own intellect above clear guidance.
Then we get this other type of person, maybe someone more relatable for many. And among mankind is he who worships Allah, as it were, upon the edge. What does that mean? Worshipping on the edge.
It's describing a kind of conditional faith, A fair weather faith, if you like. If good things happen, maybe they get wealthy, things go well, they're happy, content with their religion. But if a trial hits them, a fitna, a real test, hardship, maybe illness or loss, they turn back completely. The verse says this person loses both this world and the hereafter. Their faith is superficial, it's transactional, it doesn't hold up under pressure.
Yeah, there's actually a great story, an anecdote from Ibn Abbas, one of the Prophet's companions and a major scholar. He explained the verse referred to some Bedouin Arabs back then. Their faith was literally tied to the weather and their livestock. If it rained, crops grew, animals gave birth healthily, they'd say, yeah, this religion is great. But if there was a drought or difficult births, they'd immediately say, nah, there's no good in this religion, and they'd just ditch it.
Exactly. And other scholars, like Mujahid and Qatada, they interpreted upon the edge as being in doubt, or like standing on the very edge of a cliff or mountain. It signifies this really precarious, unstable commitment. And the consequence, losing both this world and the hereafter, it means they don't really gain anything substantial spiritually in this life and face, well, doom in the next. The lesson is stark. True faith needs unwavering commitment. It can't depend on whether things are going well or badly for us personally.
It really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Is my commitment conditional? Are trials just tests of sincerity?
That's the question it poses, definitely.
Okay, so in sharp contrast to these conditional folks, Allah promises the steadfast believers paradise.
Absolutely. A clear, unambiguous promise. Truly, Allah will admit those who believe and do righteous good deeds to gardens underneath which rivers flow. It connects sincere belief directly with consistent good actions.
Right. Then the surah tackles doubts some might have had about whether Allah would actually support his messenger, Prophet Muhammad. And it issues this really powerful, almost defiant challenge.
It is striking. It says, whoever thinks that Allah will not help him, Muhammad, in this world and in the hereafter, let him stretch out a rope to the ceiling and let him strangle himself. Then let him see whether his plan will remove that whereat he rages.
Wow. That's intense.
It's not literal instruction, obviously. It's a statement of absolute certainty about divine victory. It's challenging those consumed by rage and frustration at the Prophet's success, basically saying, your anger is futile, nothing you do, not even ending your own life, can stop Allah's plan.
So it's an ultimate expression of confidence in divine support.
Precisely. And the passage wraps up. Thus have we sent it down as clear ayat, verses or signs, and surely Allah guides whom he wills. The clarity of the message is there, guidance is available, but actually accepting it, that depends on Allah's will, and importantly, our own openness, our own receptiveness. It highlights how pointless it is to fight against divine truth.
Okay. Then Allah declares his role as the ultimate judge over all the different religious groups. It emphasizes universal accountability.
Yeah, he lists them specifically. Verily, those who believe, and those who are Jews, and the Sabians, and the Christians, and the Magians, and those who worship others besides Allah. Truly, Allah will judge between them on the day of resurrection. And it adds, Allah is witness over all things. It stresses his complete sovereignty and impartiality. No group gets a free pass. Everyone answers for themselves.
And that leads into this idea of universal submission, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That all of creation submits to Allah in some way.
Beautifully put, yeah. Do you not see that everything in the heavens and the earth bows down before Allah, and so do the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees and the beasts, and a large number of the people and even a large number of those who have deserved the torment?
That's fascinating. So everything in nature submits, inherently to God's physical laws. But humans, we have a choice, right? Moral and spiritual submission.
Exactly. That's the crucial difference. And for those humans who choose not to submit willingly, consciously, out of love and obedience, they're still subject to Allah's power, of course. But their submission isn't willing. It's, you could say, a submission by force, ultimately leading to disgrace in the hereafter. Real honor, true dignity, the verse implies, comes only from Allah, and he gives it to those who choose to submit willingly.
It really drives home that everyone is accountable. Doesn't matter the label. It's about belief and actions.
Precisely.
Then the surah gets very explicit, categorizing people into two parties who have disputed about their Lord, and it contrasts their fates really vividly.
Yeah, for the disbelievers, the descriptions of hell are, well, terrifying. Garments of fire have already been cut out for them. Over their heads shall be poured boiling water, and there shall be maces of iron to lash them. It's a graphic warning about the consequences of rejecting the truth.
But then, the flip side. For the righteous, the description is just as vivid but beautiful. Admission to gardens underneath which canals will be flowing. There they will be decorated with golden bracelets and pearls, and their garments will be of silk. And it says they were guided to accept the pure word.
This whole section, with its sharp contrast, acts as a powerful motivator. It shows the ultimate outcomes, pushing believers towards sticking to their faith and doing good. And it connects accepting truth with having a receptive heart, that inner purity we talked about.
Okay, let's shift focus to a specific place. Al-Masjid Al-Haram, the sacred mosque in Makkah. The surah strongly condemns anyone who hinders people from it.
Yes, and it emphasizes its universal nature. It's made open to all men. The dweller in it and the visitor are equal there. It's not meant to be private property or restricted. It's a universal sanctuary. Everyone has equal rights there.
And here's something really unique that caught my eye. It says, even the intention to commit a sin within its sacred boundaries is punishable. That's this concept called ilhad, right? Deviation.
That's right, ilhad. It's a profound spiritual rule specific to the Haram sanctuary. The very sanctity of the place magnifies the spiritual weight, not just of actions, but even of bad intentions. It implies that being near that divine presence demands a higher level of self-control, of purity in thought and deed. It teaches this deep reverence, this need for constant vigilance over your inner state, especially there.
Wow, okay, so from the sanctity of the place, the surah moves into the Hajj itself, the pilgrimage. It details the rituals, but stresses their deeper meaning.
Allah commanded Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, to purify the house, the Kaaba. It's also called the Atiq house, meaning liberated or ancient. And Ibrahim was told to proclaim the Hajj to all humankind. So pilgrims come, they perform these rites, they witness spiritual benefits, they pronounce Allah's name over the sacrificial animals, they eat some themselves, and crucially, they feed the poor and needy.
And there's this core principle again. Whoever honors the sacred things of Allah, for him it is good in the sight of his Lord. It also strictly forbids the uncleanliness of idols and a false statement, and commands people to be upright, associating none with him. That's the core of monotheism.
And then it gives this incredibly powerful image to illustrate the consequence of shirk, polytheism, associating partners with God. It likens the idolater to someone who has fallen from the sky and is either snatched away by birds or swept by the wind to a remote place.
That's a devastating image.
It really is. It signifies complete spiritual destruction, utter desolation, losing all connection to truth, becoming vulnerable, like prey to negative influences or, devils.
But conversely, honoring the symbols of Allah, it's certainly out of the piety of the heart. It comes back to that inner state, the Taqwa.
Right. And just to add some practical details mentioned or related, pilgrims complete their state of ihram, those simple white garments signifying equality and purity, by shaving their heads or trimming hair, cutting nails, changing clothes. A key ritual is the Tawafu Ziyara, circling the Kaaba 7 times after the main standing at Arafat. That's considered the second main pillar after Arafat itself. Sharing the sacrificial meat is heavily emphasized, feeding the poor. And a hadith clarifies that 1 camel or cow can fulfill the sacrifice for 7 people. And false speech isn't just lying, it explicitly includes holding polytheistic beliefs.
So Hajj isn't just a set of actions, it's like a spiritual boot camp.
That's a great way to put it. A concentrated training ground for complete submission, for cultivating that deep inner piety, that God consciousness. It hammers home pure monotheism and shows how worship involves both inner sincerity and outward action.
Okay, and what about the sacrifice itself? The surah clarifies its purpose.
It points out its universality first. For every community, we appointed a rite of sacrifice so that they may pronounce the name of Allah over the sacrificial animals. So it's an ancient, widespread practice.
But then comes the core insight, the really crucial part. It is not their meat nor their blood that reaches Allah, but it is piety from you that reaches him.
Exactly. This statement is revolutionary in a sense. It shifts the entire focus away from just the physical act. It's not about the meat or blood getting to God. It's about the sincerity, the devotion, the God consciousness, the taqwa of the person performing the sacrifice. The physical act is just a vehicle, a symbol, the form without the substance, the right intention. It's empty. It's the inner state that reaches Allah.
That's profound. And the passage ends with reassurance. Verily, Allah defends those who believe.
Yes, a promise. Allah protects those who trust him, shields them from harm, from plots, provided they hold on to their faith, avoid treachery, show gratitude. And it highlights humility being mukbitin, humble and submissive, as a key quality that attracts divine help and favor.
Okay, building on that idea of divine defense, the surah then addresses a really significant moment. The first time the early Muslims were given permission to fight defensively. This has huge implications, even today.
It does, and it's very specific about the context. Permission to fight is given to those who were fought against because they have been wronged. expelled from their homes unjustly only because they said, "Our Lord is Allah." So the permission is clearly framed. It's for self-defense, for repelling oppression, for protecting basic religious freedom against those who initiated aggression. It wasn't a call for offensive war.
And then comes this really interesting universal insight. Had it not been that Allah checks one set of people by means of another, there would have been demolished monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques in which the name of Allah is much mentioned.
This is a crucial statement. It suggests that this mechanism allowing oppressed people to defend themselves is actually part of a divine system for maintaining balance. It implies that unchecked tyranny would eventually lead to the destruction of all places of worship, whatever the faith. So, allowing defensive struggle actually serves to protect religious freedom and diversity for everyone.
That's a powerful way to look at it. And it says those who are granted power or authority have a responsibility. Will establish prayers, pay charity, enjoin good, and forbid evil. Many see this as predicting the actions of the early caliphs.
Yes, it sets a standard for just leadership. So what this means for you, listening, is it lays down principles for just self-defense, highlights the duty to protect all houses of worship, and stresses the huge responsibility that comes with power to establish justice and righteousness.
Then, to console Prophet Muhammad, Allah reminds him that he wasn't the first messenger to be rejected. Previous nations, Noah, Ad, Tamud, the people of Abraham, Lut, Lot, Madian, they also denied their prophets.
Right. It points to a recurring pattern in history. Allah gives these nations time, a period of respite, a chance to change. But when they persisted in disbelief and wrongdoing, eventually punishment came, whole towns destroyed, ruins left behind, deserted wells, crumbling castles, stark warnings. There's a famous hadith that captures this. Allah lets the wrongdoer carry on until, when he seizes him, he will never let him go. It explains this divine pattern: patience, testing, then decisive accountability.
And the surah asks this penetrating question to those who don't learn from the past. Have they not traveled through the land, and have they hearts wherewith to understand and ears wherewith to hear? Then it adds, verily, it is not the eyes that grow blind, but it is the hearts which are in the breasts that grow blind.
Powerful stuff. It's saying true understanding isn't just about physical senses. It's about the heart's capacity to perceive truth. This spiritual blindness is what stops people from seeing the clear signs and learning the lessons history offers.
And when people demand punishment quickly, impatiently, Allah's response is, interesting. A day with your Lord is as 1,000 years of what you reckon.
Yeah, that puts our human timescale in perspective, doesn't it? Divine timing isn't our timing. This delay isn't weakness. It's often a sign of God's grace, allowing more time for repentance. It's also part of the test. It teaches believers patience and perseverance and confirms that accountability will come eventually.
Okay, now this next part is quite profound, maybe a bit complex. The idea of satanic whispers interfering with revelation. The surah says sometimes Satan cast into his recitation something when a prophet spoke.
Yes, this addresses a sensitive topic. It refers to instances where Satan might try to subtly insert doubt or falsehood or cause confusion around a prophet's message, but the crucial point is what comes next. Allah abolishes what Satan casts in, then Allah confirms his verses. God immediately corrects it and ensures the purity of his revelation. This passage is often linked to historical discussions about, for example, the satanic verses incident. The key takeaway is that these moments, these attempts by Satan, actually serve a divine purpose too. They become a trial.
A trial? How so?
Well, the surah explains these trials are for those in whose hearts is a disease and whose hearts are hardened. They expose the hypocrisy or weakness already present in some people.
Ah, I see. But for others?
But for others, those who have been given knowledge, these incidents actually strengthen their faith. They recognize the truth, overcoming the falsehood. They see Allah confirming his verses, and their hearts may submit to it with humility.
So the same event can harden some hearts but soften others and increase their faith and humility.
Exactly. It's a divine mechanism for spiritual sorting, you could say. It exposes hypocrisy while reinforcing the sincere believers and reassuring everyone that Allah ultimately protects his revelation. Humility and knowledge help people see the truth through the temporary confusion.
Okay. Then Allah offers comfort specifically to those who migrate, who sacrifice their homes, maybe even their lives, for his cause.
Yes, he promises them good provision, generally understood as paradise and a pleasing entrance into it. This applies to those who emigrated for the cause of Allah and then were killed or died. It's a guarantee that their sacrifice is seen, valued, and will be rewarded immensely, far beyond anything they lost in this world.
It also mentions a principle of retaliation, or perhaps justice. Whoever has retaliated with the like of that which he was made to suffer, and then has again been wronged, Allah will surely help him.
This sets a principle for proportionate justice. You have a right to respond in kind if you are wronged, but crucially, it promises Allah's help if after you've retaliated justly, you are wronged again. This implies there are limits to retaliation. You shouldn't go overboard. And ultimately, you rely on Allah's help for justice and victory, even when defending your rights. It teaches both the virtue of sacrifice and reliance on God.
Okay, then the surah shifts back to demonstrating Allah's power through these grand signs in the universe and nature.
Yeah, a whole series of them, causing night and day to alternate, sending rain that brings dead earth back to life, having control over everything in the heavens and earth, making ships sail safely on the sea by his command, even holding the sky up, preventing it from falling on the earth. These are constant, ongoing manifestations of his power and mercy.
And the point of listing all these is to drive home the core truth. Allah, He is the truth, and what they invoke besides him, it is false. And verily, Allah, He's the most high, the most great.
And right after that, a reminder of our existence. He is the one who gave you life, and then will cause you to die, and will again give you life. Followed by the observation, verily, man is indeed kafudon, meaning deeply ungrateful or prone to disbelief, despite all these signs.
But then, after all that cosmic grandeur, the focus zooms right down to a fly. This is where it gets really, really interesting, doesn't it? This parable about the fly illustrating the weakness of false gods.
It's incredibly powerful precisely because of that contrast. The fly parable. Indeed, those you invoke besides Allah will never create as much as a fly, even if they were to gather together for it. And if a fly should steal something from them, they would not be able to recover it from him. Weak are the pursuer and also the pursued.
It's such a simple, almost mundane example, but the implication is huge.
Absolutely. It's saying, look, these beings or concepts you worship instead of the Creator, all their combined power couldn't even create something as seemingly insignificant as a fly. Worse still, they're so powerless, if a tiny fly took something minuscule from them, maybe a bit of food offering, they couldn't even get it back. Both the false god, the pursued, and the worshiper trying to get it back, the pursuer, are utterly weak.
It just demolishes any notion of power attributed to idols or anything other than the one true God.
Exactly. Placing this right after the descriptions of cosmic power shows that Allah's power is total, encompassing everything from galaxies down to the wing of a fly. It demonstrates the absolute impotence of false deities. So, for you listening, the lesson is that true power is holistic. Even the smallest challenge reveals falsehood. It pushes us towards absolute reliance on Allah alone and deep gratitude for His real power.
Okay, as we near the end of the surah, it reaffirms Allah's sovereign choice in selecting messengers, both angels and humans, and then delivers this final, comprehensive instruction to believers.
Yes, it summarizes the core actions for success. Bow down and prostrate yourselves and worship your Lord and do good that you may be successful. Worship and good deeds tied together. And immediately following that, strive hard in Allah's cause as you ought to strive. A call to exertion, to effort and living according to His way.
It also highlights the ease and the heritage of the faith.
Yeah.
He has chosen you and has not laid upon you in religion any hardship. It is the religion of your father, Ibrahim.
Right. It presents Islam not as a new burden, but as the natural, straightforward, monotheistic path of Abraham, made easy by God.
And it gives the Muslim community, the Ummah, a specific role, doesn't it?
It does. Designated as a just and fair nation, chosen specifically to be witnesses over mankind, just as the Prophet Muhammad is a witness over them. This implies a collective responsibility to uphold justice, embody the truth, and share it with humanity.
And the final instruction emphasizes reliance.
Yeah.
So perform the salah, prayer, give zakat charity, and hold fast to Allah. He is your mullah, your protector, guardian, master. What an excellent along, what an excellent helper.
Yeah, that ending really brings it all together. It shows Islam as comprehensive, covering individual worship, moral behavior, social responsibility, striving for good. And it links individual faith to this collective identity with a mission, emphasizing that ultimate reliance, success, and help come only from Allah.
So wrapping this deep dive up, what does it all mean? We've journeyed through Surah Al-Hajj, looked at its call to Taqwa, God consciousness, the certainty of resurrection, that sharp critique of conditional faith, the sacredness of holy sites, divine justice, lessons from history.
It really does offer a holistic framework, doesn't it? Weaving warnings with guidance. It stresses that true worship is about that inner piety, the taqwa, and it establishes these crucial principles like just self-defense and protecting all places of worship, showing a real divine concern for religious freedom for everyone.
Yeah, this deep dive really highlights how these ancient texts offered timeless wisdom, for building a deep, sincere connection to something bigger than ourselves, and for navigating life's inevitable trials with some spiritual resilience. It feels like a blueprint for both, like individual integrity and also community responsibility, still so relevant.
Which leads to maybe a final thought, a question for you, the listener, to reflect on. In our world today, with all its complexity, the constant flood of information, how can these core lessons from Surah Al-Hajj, lessons about unwavering commitment, about humbly reflecting on the signs around us, about pursuing that inner piety, how can they help us cut through the noise, help us distinguish real, lasting guidance from just fleeting trends, and maybe find a deeper, more solid sense of purpose in our own lives?
That's a great question to ponder. We really encourage you to reflect on these profound lessons. See how they resonate with your own journey. Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep digging deeper.